Hey, everybody. Joe De Sena is the founder of the Spartan Racing series. And if you haven't taken part in one of his races, you probably know someone that has. But it's more than a business he's built, it's a movement where the everyday man or woman is challenged both physically and mentally. The Spartan brand is huge with more than 1.3 million people racing each year. But that business was nearly wiped out during the pandemic. However, it's perseverance that has shaped Joe's life, and it's perseverance that saved his business. From a street smart kid in Queens, New York, to the godfather of adventure racing, there is much to learn about the struggle and success of racing and doing hard things as we sit down with Joe De Sena. Yeah, we're good to go. So are you in Vermont right now?
Right now I'm in Florida.
Yeah. So I know you did the Florida thing after COVID. So tell me about that. Is that where you're spending most of your time?
Spending a lot of time in Florida, unfortunately for me. I'd rather be on the farm chopping wood, climbing mountains, but that's not in the cards right now. We got an office down here. I made some great friends down here. Actually, one of the friends I made down here, had I not been here, had I not met him, our company wouldn't exist. And we happen to be at the #1 wrestling program in the country for my boys, and great soccer for the girls, and so there's added benefits. I just don't get to chop wood and climb mountains.
Yeah, right. Well, but you did it for the business, right? That's really was, and it seems like that worked out.
It worked out, and I told people since I was a kid building businesses that you take care of the business first, and then it takes care of you.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the business just for perspective, because I think everyone's heard of Spartan, but I think people would be surprised at how big it is. I mean, just looking at your website, it's clearly more than just the Spartan races. It's ultra races, trail races, Deca, Tough Mudder. How many people are doing some kind of Spartan race each year?
Yeah, this year we'll have over 1.3 million participants across 45 countries, 1,300 events. Of the 1,300 events we put on, about 200 and change are very, the ones the big ones. And then there's a bunch of small events, DECA events that happen at gyms. So it's, like you said, it's bigger than you think. We punch way above our weight. 45 countries we operate in. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't want to jump off a roof somewhere because there's problems and headaches, like any business.
Yeah.
But I got something that very few people get, which is, Hey, Joe, I'm back with my wife. I'm back with my husband. I lost 200 pounds. I gave up drugs. I gave up drinking, and I didn't kill myself. So who gets that?
Yeah. Yeah. And you hear it. You hear every day from somebody.
All day, every day.
Yeah. Well, you're changing lives. And so how do you run that kind of operation? I mean, how do you run something at that scale?
We have a great team. Lots of leaders say that, but what we really do, the government reached out to me last night. Here's a great example to answer that question. And they had an idea to do something with a very short fuse. Like, in DC, you got 2 weeks to get it together. We don't even know where to begin. Joe, tell me, what do you got? That was last night at 5 p.m. This morning at 8 a.m., they had a plan, 10 pages deep on their desk. So we have an incredible team that can do incredible. They're really like superheroes. Where it's challenging, where I have a tough time because of who I am and how I grew up, is the technology part. I'm more Flintstone than I am Jetson,
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you're out there, you're on Instagram, you have a podcast. I mean, so how are you're balancing a lot of different hats that you're wearing.
I mean, every day I'm doing videos. Every day I'm doing some podcast somewhere, right? Sometimes you scratch your head and you say, "Do I really need to do this? Is this going to make an impact?" But then I'm really a student of life. Then I'm walking around. I was at the U.S. Open 2-3 weeks ago in Queens, New York, and I saw 3 police officers outside. They were managing traffic, and guess what they were doing? They were staring at their phone. And I love the police, and I love uniform service. So what I'm saying is, as our species, whether I'm in Saudi Arabia China, the US, everybody is staring at this
Yes.
thing. Everybody, all day, every day. I'm fighting with my kids, but then my kids are fighting back at me saying, Dad, you're looking at your phone.
I know.
So, so we're all looking at this thing. So to your point, I'd rather be focused on barbed wire. I'd rather be focused on ropes, but you're right. I got to focus on the medium, right? Because that's what everybody is paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's a tricky balance. I mean, you talk about it in your book for 10 Rules for Resilience for Families about getting off the phones and electronic. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for us as parents, for us personally and in business where, I'm not crazy about social media, but for this podcast, I got to be involved in it. I got to be tracking people and things like that. So it's kind of this vortex that sucks you back in.
Never ending.
Yeah, but that's why it's good to have athletics outside of it. So, I want to ask you about your upbringing because you've talked a lot about it. But for people that don't really know you, I think we're shaped by where we come from, and your story of growing up in Queens and in New York, and really your mom wasn't. You write about her in your book. She wasn't an endurance athlete, but she was strong in her conviction and her confidence, right? And is that where you get that?
I mean, I think it's some of it. I grew up in Queens. I grew up ground zero for Goodfellas, for
Uh-huh.
anybody that saw that movie. When I reflect back and I get asked the question you just asked, I think, well, there were lots of people going to jail and they were doing, 5, 10, 15, 30-year bids. That's an endurance, an exercise in endurance. Like that is Shackleton, we talk about, got stuck in the ice with his men for 2 years. There's guys I know that are still in jail 30 years later.
Yeah.
So I'm not proud or condoning what they did. I'm just saying, like, that requires serious mental fortitude. So I saw that. I saw my mom meditating and doing yoga and fighting the trends of the day, which were cannolis and raviolis and cigarettes, right? So that required tremendous endurance. She got into long distance running. So she was doing 10 miles a day, many
Mm.
days.
Oh, I
And
didn't
like,
know that.
yeah. And the yogi that taught her believed in long distance running, oddly enough.
Mm.
Back then, 10 miles was pretty significant, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, my dad was a businessman like everybody in the neighborhood, and they grinded to death 7 days a week from 5 in the morning until 1 in the morning. Like, they never stopped. Like,
Yeah.
employees for my dad used to say, your dad dropped me off at home. I took a shower. When he picked me up, my hair was still wet. So, like, that was like, so I lived in like everything was
Yeah.
endurance,
Yeah.
right? It was like endure. Can you endure this life? That whether it was the welder up the street who had his family business, the tow truck guy, the pizza guys, the cement guys, the bad guys. Um, so I think like you either got with it or got out.
Yeah. And you talk about, you started your pool cleaning business and construction business. You were doing that from a young age. You built that thing up, but you also I think that opened your eyes to people in different ways, right? Seeing people with wealth, maybe what that they did or didn't do. Can you talk about what that impression, what that grind of that job did for you in those ways?
Yeah, I look at our children now. My wife and I have 4 kids, and I say, how could I level them up? How could I give them some of my experiences? But you can't. You can't. Like in that, in what you just described, I had 700 customers by the time I graduated
Wow.
university, 700 families that I could walk in, open the fridge, just like my friends' kids walk in my house now, right? I could walk in and I got to watch over a 10 or 12-year period the families that fell apart, the families that stuck together, the kids that failed, the ones that went to jail, the ones that built businesses. And I didn't even know I was doing it, but subconsciously I was absorbing all this information and probably saying to myself more of that, less of that.
Mhm.
And it was an unbelievable education that I don't even know how you'd repeat it, right? Like you don't often get to look at that many,
Right.
the neighbors, your cousins. I got 700, all different ethnic backgrounds, all different geographic places, all different levels of income. Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
a powerful study, if you will,
Yeah.
that I got to be part of.
Yeah. I always think about these crossroads we come to in life, and thinking about which direction we go. And you, in following your career, you've had a number of them. And one of them was after, like, the decision you made to pursue Cornell. You're living in Ithaca, right? And Cornell, like, tell that story because we're talking about athletic perseverance, but that was academic and personal perseverance that really,
Persistent,
really,
persistent.
yeah,
Yeah.
persistence that really shaped part of your life.
Yeah, so I somebody just asked me yesterday about this. So I was graduating high school. I had no interest in going to college. I couldn't wait to get back to the neighborhood. I already had a business. My mom had yogis in the living room chanting. I had no interest in that. There were wise guys back in the neighborhood where my
Yeah.
pool business, that's where I wanted to be. And a friend of mine in Ithaca says, why don't we go to Cornell? And I said, how the hell would we go to Cornell? Like, my SAT scores were terrible. My grades were never that good. And I had no intent. I hadn't prepared for it. And it was too late to apply. But somehow his father was a professor, got us. Oh, I just did an interview with a Cornell magazine 3 days.
Oh,
That's where the story came
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And I went for it. We went and had interviews, my buddy and I. We put on suits and we had interviews. And when I told my dad, like, and my mom, it was like I was already going to an Ivy League school. All I did was an interview, but just
Huh.
being on like, I must be special. And so I started to believe that I was qualified. I could do this. And sometimes you've got to believe something before it becomes real. And of course, we both got denied. Neither of us got in to the college. But we learned that actually any college, you can go take some classes and you can prove to that university that you could handle the course load. And there's a chance they let you in. Unfortunately for me, the admissions director did not want to set a precedence and say, hey, here's a secret backdoor way
Huh.
on how to get in Cornell. And so she did not allow me in after my attempt to do that, take those classes and do well. And she didn't let me in again. So my fourth try, I was becoming pretty hard headed, but at the same time, it was starting to break me a bit by my fourth attempt. And I met a woman who my mother taught yoga to. I don't know if you know this story. And this woman, Professor Anita Racine, she sat me down. My mother said, hey, can you go meet before you leave, before you quit this journey you've been on for 2 years trying to get into Cornell and go back to New York and run but before you quit, go meet this woman, my student. I teach yoga to her. So she said, Joe, I'm looking at your records. Your grades are actually pretty good. Do you like textiles? And I didn't really know what a textile was. She said, because I run the department for textile and apparel management. We have 92 women in the department, no men, and we want some diversity. And I said, oh, I love textiles. I'll take as many textiles as you give me. So Professor Anita Racine changed my life, accepted me into Cornell, and the rest is history.
So that four attempts, you get in on your fourth attempt. I mean, that is perseverance, which plays out such a great example throughout your life. But what do you remember what that felt like when you finally got in and what it meant to you?
It's interesting. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that. When you just asked me that question, I can't recall. I mean, I recall the meeting with her and at that meeting feeling like, okay, I was in then because that's the way the neighborhood worked. Where
Uh-huh.
like if you just shook my hand and we just agreed over a coffee or a bagel, it was done. Um, so I don't recall the exact moment where like a letter came to me or something,
Sure.
but I do recall meeting her, feeling like she was going to make this happen, and just understanding that that's the way life works. You got to
Yeah.
get to the person.
Yeah. And
You got
maybe
to
it's
get.
something you appreciate more later in life too. Sometimes we always don't know the meaning of something until till later when you can appreciate it down the road a little bit, maybe.
Oh, I mean, it's interesting. Life is interesting, right? Because my boys wrestle, the girls play soccer.
Uh-huh.
They wrestle, let's say, 4 hours a day. And then when they go to a tournament, it's a couple of minutes and maybe they win, maybe they lose. And so when you ask the question, like, how did it feel? Well, how did the 400 hours of training feel? Because that's
Right.
where you spent most of your time, right? So
Right.
I spent all that time studying my ass off, trying to like understand anything I was reading because I hadn't prepared in high school at all. That's where all the time was spent. And then I met with Anita. I met with the professor for like 11 minutes. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I was in.
Yeah. That's great. Well, it is a story of perseverance. I mean, it really is, and I mean that is your story and Spartan and what you're all about. You end up on Wall Street. You end up in finance. Is that something you thought you were going to go into, or you just kind of another way where you just this life path just kind of you found your way there?
I don't remember where I was or when I came to the conclusion that the one thing I would never do in life. There was some moment somewhere in my life where it was clear as day. Like I might not have known what I was going to do, but the one thing I knew I wasn't going to do was sit in front of a computer, be at a desk.
Hmm.
Never do that. And that's exactly where I ended up.
Hmm.
And I ended up on Wall Street. And look, for a minute, more than a minute, I felt like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in the movies. I made it to Wall Street. I'm a Queens kid. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm now on the other side of the river. I'm in Manhattan.
Hmm.
Queens people don't go to Manhattan. And and so I felt very special, even though I did not want to be sitting on a desk in front of the screens. And you know, for another minute, doing the math really quick, becoming sharper, being able to be quick on the phones, knowing when to hang up the phone to not annoy the person on the other phone, and knowing when to talk more when they wanted to talk. That became an art in and of itself, and you had to become capable. You know, I was talking to somebody recently, one of my best friends, and he runs a very large hedge fund. He interacts with all kinds of politicians and all levels of life, and he said he's found it hard to beat the finance people. The finance people just seem to be pretty switched on, and
Hmm.
I would say that that period of my life, I mean, I was already a little switched on, right? Mixing cement for wise guys and building pools and cleaning pools, right? But you become really switched on in a trading that where shit's happening at
Yeah.
light speed, and you got to do the math, and you're making mistakes, and
Well, there's something about, I mean, Ken, like Ken Rideout,
yep,
he's a grinder, right? He was in
yep,
finance and comes
yep.
from a blue collar background. There's something about street smarts that applies to sales or finance. So you can see where, people make that transition, right? You take those skills into, that environment and it
Mm.
can be very applicable, right?
No doubt. I mean, when we look at our try, I ended up building a firm on Wall Street, and when I look at who had the most success, it was the regular street guys that I found.
Yeah.
You know, that had no business being there, no degrees, no specialty, other than they knew how to talk to people. They knew how to get the job done. They had energy. They were switched on.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, you do you look back at that and ever think like, "Man, I there was a chance I stayed in that?" There's a lot of people, I say, Joe, that there's a lot of people that don't pull the trigger and get out of it, even though they didn't ever wanna be in front of a desk.
I mean, I remember seeing Scarface, Al Pacino in that scene where, you know, or any one of these lead characters in movies or books where they just stay a little too long.
Yeah.
And they, right? Like Michael Jordan got out maybe the right time, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I always thought about that. And there's lots of friends that stayed of mine that have made 100 times the amount of money. And I don't envy them at all.
Right.
I climb mountains, chop wood, carry water.
Yeah.
like, like, but I had a huge advantage. I had a mom who was kind of preaching that stuff at a young age before it was cool. You know, it was much more of a Buddhist mindset when really we all had commercial mindsets, more Cadillacs, more money, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. You found the endurance bug along the way, right? I mean, and I mean, when you found it, you went in personally on
Yeah.
endurance. So
Yeah.
you didn't grow up doing endurance events, but when you found it, man, you got bit by the bug big time.
I did. You don't know this, but when I lived in Ithaca, I used to race BMX, which was a short little race. It wasn't even a mile with our bikes. That was my sport, that and skiing.
Hmm.
And somebody recently sent me a clipping, a newspaper clipping. When I was 13, our moms wouldn't drive us to a race. My brain couldn't really calculate the distance. We bicycled with these little BMX bikes. I convinced my friends 75 miles each way.
Wow. Oh
And
my
so
God.
and so I was not an endurance person, but there was definitely some endurance somewhere deep down in there.
Yeah.
And just this non-quit high energy, right? Like, but when I found it, to your point, when I found it while I was on Wall Street, I was bitten by the bug. Look, it's no surprise. I mean, we spend 95% of our time indoors. Joe goes outside. He sweats and breathes heavy and feels like an adventurer for 3 hours. And it's like, oh my God, this feels really good.
Yeah.
I didn't need a psychologist or pills or anything. I had sunlight and I was breathing heavy and I was sweating and I drank water and miraculously I felt great.
Yeah. So you start doing this with other people though, right? So that's where this thing starts building up, and can you talk about how it started getting momentum, and how you make that transition from your personal hobby turns into a business?
Well, in 1995, when I started doing the races, there was no business. I was on Wall Street. And then in 2001, I put on our first race with Richard Branson down in the British Virgin Islands.
And then how did that come about?
I started thinking while I was on Wall Street, while I was doing these races in those 5 or 6 years, I started thinking, how do I make this a life?
Hmm.
How do I escape this craziness?
Hmm.
These people sitting next to me that no matter how much money they make, it's not enough, who have problems that I can't solve.
Hmm.
I don't want to be around this anymore. I want to be kayaking.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I want to change. I want other people to feel what I feel like. And so in 2001, that first race was in British Virgin Islands. We lost the guy. I had a team setting up the course. Unbeknownst to me uh, or anybody, he got into a dinghy, a little boat, went to start the engine. The engine didn't start. And he drifted away. No one noticed. And he drifted for 8 days.
Oh my
And
goodness.
he ended up on Little Tobago, an uninhabited island. We found him with the Coast Guard after the race was over. We thought he was dead. Sports Illustrated did a story on it. Clearly, I should have never put on another event because I didn't know what I was doing, but I did, and that was really the beginning. From 2001, after that incident, to 2010, all I did was lose money.
Hmm.
I tried lying to people and telling them, come out for the weekend. It was a barbecue weekend. I did anything I could to convince people to come to these races, and I just could not get the numbers to work. It was fun. I was enjoying it. I was smiling. We were laughing. We were running, but I was just burning, literally burnt. Here I was. I worked my whole life. Like I was just burning money.
Yeah.
2009, 2010, one last shot after the financial crisis. All right, I'm gonna try a military style obstacle race. We'll do one in Vermont. I'm gonna invest $50,000. This is my last fit. Like if this doesn't work, I'm done with this nonsense business. And it worked. 700 people showed up, and then
Hmm.
1,500 people, and then 3,000, and 5,000. It just became a thing.
So is it what is it? What did you capture? Is it the little you said the military, tied to it? I mean the crawling and because it's not just running, it's this combination
Well,
of
running, right? I
things.
think I think when you reflect back, like why did it work? CrossFit was becoming popular. Lots
Uh-huh.
lots of folks were coming back from the Middle East from a war, financial crisis. People were not feeling great. They didn't have a lot of money, and there's something really badass about feeling like a Navy SEAL, about acting like a Navy SEAL or Delta Force operator for a day. It wasn't overly impossible. I mean, it was 3 miles, 5 miles at that time, 8. It wasn't a and oh, and by the way, there's a tremendous community, and they're really fun people to be around, and so it just checked every box. Oh, and I got a photo I get to put up and look like a
Yeah.
badass to
Yeah.
my friend, right? So like, it just checked all the boxes, and it's gonna sound silly. People might not understand this one, but like, there's some, like, our whole life we're told to not get dirty and to
Mhm,
wash our clothes and to brush our teeth and to keep. There's something really, really healthy and really good about getting dirty,
mhm. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it all makes sense. I mean, you touched on a lot there. Feeling like a badass.
Yep.
Community, you said community. I think that's a
Yep.
big, I think that's a big word. I think that has a lot of meaning to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so as this thing grows, do you start making money at some point and it starts becoming, you start hiring people and you start building this business?
I see some of my contemporaries that are influencers. One of the topics comes across your feed as this idea that, be prepared to grind for 10 years.
Hmm.
Well, 2010, when Spartan was rebranded, I had already grinded for 10 years. I had
Mhm,
already, from 2010 to 2018, another 8 years, it was more grinding to get it to work. By 2018, it had worked. We had put money in the bank. We bought out our early investors. We had this really tough competitor named Tough Mudder. We bought them, and we started to create a vision for a house of brands, a house of hard. Like, could we be the Louis Vuitton of tough challenges? And then the pandemic hit, and the pandemic hit. All those years of finally getting this thing completely stable, no debt, lots of cash in the bank, fortress for a balance sheet. Everything was great. So we finally made it. Everything's going great. Pandemic hits. At that point, we had already sold $55 million worth of tickets, 550,000 tickets, called 500,000 tickets. It was spring 20 2019, 2020,
2020. Yeah.
2020, spring of 2020. Sold 500,000 tickets, which is normal. Those people are expecting me to deliver a product or service. The world gets shut down.
Hmm.
They're furious with me, with us. I offer them all 2 tickets because we're only going to be shut for a couple of weeks. I give away $100 million worth of tickets for when the world opens back up. World for us opens back up 2 years later.
Hmm.
We burned through an enormous amount of capital, as you can imagine, in those 2 years. When the world finally opens up, I had never considered the concept of like velocity in a business. Like when we first started, we had 1 race, went to 2 races, went to 3 races. When the world opened back up, I had to go to 300 events at once. I had to book 300 venues. I had to pay insurance for 300 events. And by the way, Joe, you idiot, the first $100 million you can't collect because you gave those tickets away free.
Right. Right.
So to say we're upside down is an understatement. And I'm not here to play the world's smallest violin, but lost a fortune. Here we were after, 19 years, finally getting this thing to work. And now I got to build this business all over again. And quite honestly, I question myself, just like I did with Cornell or any parts of my life. Like, I just go back to Wall Street? I can go do something else. Like, this
Mhm.
is a nightmare. We owe everybody money, everybody. We've got to put on a good face because it's all about confidence, right? I got to make this thing work. You're not going to buy a ticket to a race if you don't think so I have to put my smile on. I have to be confident. I have to keep doing my TV shows, my podcast, but we're a non-existent entity. We don't have any
Mhm.
money, none. And the board of directors said, you should just go bankrupt. And I was like, no, we're not going bankrupt. It made no sense.
Mhm.
And somehow I'm going to write a book about this. Somehow, through pure um, lack of common sense or just being an idiot, somehow we got it done. We pushed through. Knock on wood. This year is profitable. Revenue's almost back to where it was.
Mhm.
1.3 million participants. I don't know how the hell we did it. There's no. I'm not being dramatic. I mean, Harvard Business School, Babson, MIT. They could not makes no sense. I don't even know
Mhm.
how we did it.
Wonder if the resurgence is part of that community people are looking for after being, away from something like that. I mean, that hopefully that's part of it.
Yeah, I would say it's partly resurgence. I would say it's partly, when you have a brand, I would call us a badge brand where people are got tattoos, hundreds of thousands of tattoos out there, and they look at us as if we are a church or a cult.
Mhm.
I hate to use those two words in the same sentence, right? Like it's really something, and so they stuck with us. They stuck with us.
Yeah, it has meaning to people. I don't want to pass up on that. Those tough years there with you. Do you think the 2 years when you were shut down was that harder than when you ramped back up and you were doing all of that? I mean, what was the harder
No,
part of that?
no, the 2 years where we were shut, I was on the farm. I was
Mm,
making videos every day. We were trying to keep our audience engaged. So I I mean, that was some of the best times of my life. The kids, we were living on the farm. There was no school. I wasn't, I didn't, that was my office. So that was all great. The restart was a nightmare. And then here we were restarting, and this is normal. I'm not upset with anybody. Like, and everybody was taking shots at us.
mm. In
Wall
what
Street
way?
Journal.
What were they? How were
Well,
they
like
doing that?
even there were media brands within the community and the sports, and they were negative on us, right? Because they have a business to run, and the way they sell their tickets is by telling stories, and there weren't a lot of positive stories to,
Mm,
to tell, right? So
mhm,
so they were being negative. Then the Wall Street Journal called. They wanted to do a story on the cover of the bankruptcy section that Joe's probably not going to make it because that's going to get them a lot of clicks.
yeah.
And and I remember sitting down with myself and just being beside myself, saying like, we're trying to get people healthy. I could easily be on Wall Street. I'm doing this thing. We're fighting our way back, and now the Wall Street Journal is going to do this. And I really wanted to tap out and quit. And then I remembered. I remembered that that happened to me like throughout my life. There have been those moments where when the naysayers show up, when somebody says, "Hey, you know what? You just weren't smart enough for Cornell. You're just punching too far above your weight." Like
Mhm,
that's just the universe testing you.
mhm.
And all I got to do is put one foot in front of the other, and I did. And again, miraculous, we're still here. We're still here, and we're getting stronger every day. And it's really unbelievable.
People have doubted you along the way, right? And you do
Yeah.
you find energy in that, and you feel like people have doubted you along the way?
Uh, I feel like people doubt me every day. I think that's what we do as humans, right? It's very hard to find a bunch of people that want to help elevate you to your success. But I'm not being negative, but that's just the reality of our
Mhm,
species. And so you've got to find energy in that. You've got to say to yourself, if everybody believed it, if everybody thought it was a good idea, it would already be done. It's not.
mhm,
And then the other thing I learned with my podcast, the other thing I learned is our brains are always going to go and take the least path, the least amount of resistance. So like we're always going to say, no, you can't do that, or no, it's not, you're not going to make it, or no, you should quit because that's the easier path.
mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and you've learned, I mean, through your business and your work, you've learned so much about the study of humans and what, makes us stronger, right? Physically and mentally. And that's a big focus of what you do now. And I'm very intrigued by that. So how does someone get started? Someone's hearing this, they want to do something, but they haven't, right? What's their way to get going?
Listen, here's what I learned. I had a guy tell me that we completely changed his life, and he was fairly overweight. And I said, "How'd that?" He goes, "You taught me something." He goes, "You taught me to put my sneakers on. Just get my sneakers on."
Mhm.
And so when you ask that question, it's like everybody's got to just get their sneakers on. Just sign up.
Yeah.
You need a free ticket. Joe at Spartan Doc. Everybody knows if you need a ticket, I'm never going to let money get in the way, right? So I'll get you a ticket, but you got to sign up. You got to commit. You got to tell everybody you're doing it. Hopefully you do it with 4 or 5 friends. They wake you up in the morning, those days where you don't want to get up. Before you know it, you're putting down the glass of wine. You're going to bed early. You're drinking more water. Like this is not rocket science. This
Mhm.
is, if Joe, do we really need a date on the calendar? I say, well, let me ask you this. If you were in college and the professor said, yeah, do the homework, don't do the homework. There might be a test. Would you do anything? If
Right.
the construction manager said there's no due date to get the job? Would it get like, no, you have to have a date on the calendar
Yeah.
and it has to be pressing and you have to be nervous and then you do the work.
Yeah. I've said that to many people. I said that to a guy the other day. Is I coach cross country with a guy. He was talking about wanting to do I said, sign up. You got to
Yeah.
sign up and get it, and then backtrack and do the training for it. And that's what I do. I mean, I have found great value in that, and great value in doing hard things. So, in your opinion, what is the value? Where do we get value in doing these hard challenges?
Well, you got a bunch of value. Number one, on the way in, right? Once you sign up, like I said, it changes all your habits. It changes your rituals. It gets you doing the things you should be doing but haven't been doing. Number two, you end up building a community on the way in because you're checking with each other. Who got some sleep last night? Who did the work? What'd you eat? Are you losing weight? Are you gaining weight? Are you ready for this thing? So now you're talking to your community the whole way in. You do the hard thing together. You build bonds that are much stronger than if you had a matcha latte with somebody at a Starbucks, right? You crawled under barbed wire together with them. You come out the other side. You got these great friendships. You got these new habits. And before you know it, you're signing up for something else. There's a guy 15 feet from me right now. He's the guy coughing in the background. Hopefully you're not hearing it. He was incredibly overweight, like hundreds of pounds overweight when I met him 2 years ago. He found Spartan through me randomly. I was not pushing it on him. He just spent 2 months traveling the world, doing races everywhere, meeting all these fun, like, it sounds commercial when I say these things, when you ask right, but it's not. Like, it is literally life-changing or your money back.
Yeah.
You know?
I believe it. No, I believe it. I believe in the I feel like it's the superpower. Like having that routine is gives you energy throughout the day, right? If you do that workout in the morning, let's say you have that energy throughout the day, the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling of community. And I've heard you talk about also, I think you worked with a doctor on this, that there's a cognitive function of when you complete doing something hard versus not doing it, and there's a benefit to that. Is that right?
Yeah, Dr. Mark McLaughlin is a buddy of mine. He's a brain surgeon. We're writing a book right now together. But he said when he cuts somebody's head open, you can actually see tracks from the people who took on hard challenges and finished hard challenges, and you see gaps from those that quit. And so I try to tell the kids all the time, all the kids I know, everybody, you have to finish this thing. It changes your biology. Forget about the pat on the back, the medal around the neck. It changes your biology.
Yeah.
So we got to do the hard things. If this was the 1500s and you and I were doing this podcast, we'd be saying, hey, we need to do more soft things. We need to do more couch, more penicillin, more Netflix. But life is way too easy. DoorDash, Uber, climate control, way too easy.
And so one of the things you talk about in your book on resilience and family, which I really appreciated, is frankly how soft a lot of us parents are, me included, on our kids. So how do we work in more challenges for our kids?
You know, even for me, like, I talk a big game. I wrote a book about it. I post videos. I push my kids hard. Even all that nonsense that I just spewed out, it's not hard enough. Not like my oldest son says, I don't know if he understands this, but he says, Dad, you should have really put us in the slums of India.
Really?
And the reason he's probably saying, and I'm not in his head, I don't know, is he's feeling what we all feel. He's feeling those weak moments. He wants to be tougher, right? We all do. And so, well, maybe if my dad would have actually gone through with it and put us, like, maybe I'd never quit anything. Maybe I'd push through everything. And so, what kid doesn't want a six pack? What kid doesn't want to be great at sports? What kid doesn't want to be tougher? And so before the kid even wakes up and becomes 15, 16, 17, where they kind of have an understanding what's going on in the world, make them do all this stuff like you do when you tell them to brush their teeth. Make them drink more water, make them eat more salad, make them read more books, make them learn another language. It's not easy. I was on a plane the other day. I looked over and this woman had two children that were very young, and they were inconsolable, which my kids too. It happens to everybody. But the quickest pacifier for her, the quickest path to the least resistance was handing them devices. And then it's over.
I think part of that too is parents as an example, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're taking the stairs here. There's an escalator. We're taking the stairs.
Oh,
I like to love to do that with my kids.
you don't even know the amount of stairs I've made my kids
I'm
take.
sure.
I
Well,
mean,
that's why your son talks about India because his extreme is already so hard. So that's his image of really tough.
we lived
His perspective might be a little different.
we lived on the 40th floor in Japan, and we did not take the elevator. And my wife wanted to kill everybody. 40 floors old.
Oh
It's a hell of
yeah.
a hike. Hell of a hike.
Yeah. Yeah, there are examples of that, right? Maybe it's one or two stairs, but little bits of that. I want to ask you about mental toughness, and how we curate that because we talked about other people doubting us, but I think we doubt ourselves, right? We doubt ourselves a lot. So how do you curate that? How have you seen people do that and you do it yourself, curate that mental toughness?
We are all we are all going to go through moments of weakness. Everybody. Like the brain is designed to shut us down from doing things that threaten us. So we're all going to feel that. And number one, you got to do it in bits and pieces, and you got to start to build some calluses around it and some understanding and some confidence that, oh my God, I'm actually tougher than I thought I was. And then number two, you got to change your perspective and your internal language to it could be worse, could be living in Siberia, could be in
Hmm.
prison with those guys,
Hmm.
could be dead. Um, you've got to say, we get to do this. There's people missing arms and legs that don't get, like, we get to do this. So change the narrative, practice hard, surround yourself with great people. Just know that everybody's brain is going to send red flashing signals that say shut down and don't do, stop. Doesn't mean you're weaker or that, you failed because you're not living in a slum in India. It's
Hmm.
just your brain is designed that way. It's supposed to stop real threats from occurring.
Is that part of how you define resilience and develop resilience?
I, for me, I think I've just gone through so many, I was around a dad who led by example. I was in a neighborhood that led by example. I had 700 customers that led by example. I ran a business at a very young age, and I felt the pain of quitting and I felt the success of not. And I was dealing with something today in business, and I have people supposed to be handling this thing. And, it's very easy to send an email. Somebody sends an email and, oh, they haven't gotten back to me. But I didn't learn that in the neighborhood. What I learned was, when they don't respond to that, you call. If they don't respond
Uh-huh.
to that, you go to their house. And if you don't, like, you just don't stop until it's done. And so I learned, that at a young age. And I guess I've seen a lot of success utilizing those tools. And so then you just keep doing it.
Yeah, and part of that I think is also learning how to deal with failure, right? So I think you talk about failing forward. So what does that mean? Like we're going to fail at times, right? So what do we do with that?
You just don't fail. You just don't fail. Like we were dead. There was no heartbeat with this patient, with this business. It was
Yeah.
dead. It was failed. It was over. But we just didn't accept that. So, if you live in a different reality, you haven't failed,
Yeah. Yeah. You're
right?
still, yeah. Failure's not an option.
It's not an option. I mean, the race. I was in a swim race once. You would have, like, I'm thinking of an analogy for you on the track, but I was in a swim race once. It was 10 miles, and everybody had a guide kayak to make sure it was an open water swim.
Mm.
The guide kayak was a kid who was doing it as a volunteer. He got caught smoking pot, so his mom made him do it. So I didn't exactly have the best guide,
Yeah.
this young
Yeah.
kid. And I'm not a great swimmer to begin with, and I'm not a straight swimmer. Anyway, I ended up doing 14 miles. For me, that took forever. The race was over. I had, quote unquote, to your point, failed.
Mm.
The place was packed up. A boat came next to me with a loudspeaker and said, "Get out of the water." But in my reality, I stayed in the race.
Yeah.
I swam to the finish line.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the story. I finished. It was great.
Right.
There
Right.
was nobody there. There was no medal. I got it done.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I mean, there's been so many instances of your life and you're living it out. I mean, with your business the way it's going now, where do you see Spartan going? Is it are you continuing to build and pulling in other elements?
Yeah, I mean, I have to figure out everything I can that's going to motivate our species to do what they have to do. That's our job. When every decision we make every day, every time we say, should we be in this business, not be in this business, what should we do? How do I motivate the most people to get outside, get dirty, and experience what we know is going to change their life? That's what I have to do every day.
Yeah. And so is that curating different events? I mean, are you have people like watching for other trends and developing, more challenges?
We definitely think fitness is a bit like fashion. So there'll always be new and exciting things for people, again, if that's something that's going to get them off the couch. I also think that there's real stickiness around certain challenge. New York Marathon's been around, marathon's been around a long
Hmm.
time, right? So there's stuff that's very sticky, but that doesn't mean there won't be some, sugar highs with some new exciting stuff. Now we got to be careful. We should never get distracted and get into something that's like the color run or, that's silly
Yeah.
because those come and go.
Yeah.
Um, we've got to always figure out ways to expand the community and keep the community more connected. Um, yeah, I mean, partnerships that help drive scale. There's no shortage of work. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you
and I
know,
wonder if are you learning things from other countries or other cultures about things they're doing that you pull from?
it's funny you say it. We at headquarters in the U.S., we in our minds, we know everything, and we push it out to the world. But the
Mm,
reality is, when you look at our history, we pulled a lot of things in from Slovakia, Japan,
yeah.
Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So, and when you look at ancient Sparta and you look at how Lycurgus came up with this whole concept, he took parts and pieces from around the world. So there is a huge value in not having your blinders on and paying attention to folks, because there's always a better way. There's always something that's novel and innovative that we should probably pay attention to.
Yeah. Is there when you look back at kind of what led you to this spot here, is there one piece from those moments we kind of covered of your childhood and growing up that shaped you the most? Is there one of those jobs or one of those elements, those crossroads, I guess, that had the most influence on where you are today?
It's a great question. I mean, as you were asking the question, I was thinking back. I was scanning my brain over 45 years.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. We always found fun. We always found fun in the neighborhood and my family, and whether with my mom pursuing all of those, disciplines around yoga, meditation, whatever, or my dad in business or fireworks or business. Like, we always found fun each day in the stories, in the challenge, in the thing we were doing.
Hmm.
And so I would say that's a thread throughout everything we do here. Like I teach people to find fun in suffering.
Hmm.
Um, because it is fun,
Yeah.
right? You laugh at it, like it can't get any worse.
Yeah.
Oh my God, now we got to carry this bag up this hill, and you
Yeah.
could have fun with it. And I learned that at a young age, how to have fun with it,
Yeah.
how to be able to tell a story about it. It's just, I make it fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of value in that. In following your Instagram and your story, you're very much about doing hard things and challenging people to do hard things. but it's very clear that you care about people too. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't do what you do. And it's more of an observation than anything, but you don't have to do all these things, but you do, and clearly there's a connection you have with people as part of your why, I guess.
It's funny you say it because there's not a day that goes by my whole life where I haven't said, "Hey, I got to pack it in. I got to go let me go surfing. Let me go just the guy that was just telling me took all this time off and I was jealous for a minute. But then the other side of it, my brain says, but you'd give up on everybody. You'd like you have a job so it is,
Mhm.
but who the hell am I? Like, do I really have to do this job? But who would do it?
Yeah. But do
Who would
you
do it?
do you look at that? I mean, do you allow yourself to reflect at how many lives you've impacted?
I do, especially when I get the emails and the
Yeah.
messages, and that one guy just keep like, "I didn't kill myself, Joe." Um, I do, and I love it. I mean, people just come up and start crying.
Mm.
It's, I mean, really, my dream would be that the DOD would just understand. If they would just understand what this is,
Yeah.
and how and the foundation that this thing builds for this country, then it doesn't need me anymore. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um, but until then, it needs me.
Yeah. And you talked about the military aspect of it. How much of an impact has it had? Do you hear from military people and coming out, and what does it mean to them?
Game changing, game
Mm.
changing. On the way in, hey Joe, I had no interest in a military life, but I did the military for a day with you by the tens of thousands. So on the way in,
Mm.
during, I can't tell you. I'll probably get a lot of people in trouble. How many people skip out for a day and come do a race or ask me to go use the farm? They get their head clear or whatever.
Mhm.
And then post, oh my God. Hey, Joe, I'm reintegrating. I'm transitioning. I feel at home when I come. Of course, they feel it, right?
Mhm.
It feels like the military. They reconnect. The civilian military connection that occurs,
Mm.
the military to military connection, the yeah, and then I got to pinch myself. I get to hang out with all these guys and girls
Mhm.
on bases and go to the Pentagon and like, yeah,
Yeah. That's great, man. I think, you clearly love what you do. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and it's about doing hard things and the value of that. So I appreciate you sharing your story. People can follow you. What's the best place? Instagram. I mean, you're out there.
yeah. At real Joe De Sena, just shoot me an email, joe@spartan.com if you need anything. Where are you physically? You're in
I'm
Texas.
in Seattle. Seattle.
You're in Seattle.
Yeah.
We just had a race in Seattle. So
Yeah.
you should what you should do is find the next, whether Tough Mudder, Spartan, whatever. You should rally. I'll give you all free entries, and you should energize your community
Yeah.
with the tickets.
I will get a group together. I was looking on
Yeah,
the website at your next event, so I think early
yeah.
26 would be a good one.
It's
Yeah.
yours. It's yours. You could change the name. You could take the name Spartan down, put up your name if you want. Whatever. Just let's
We'll
have
do
some
the
fun.
Spartan. That's plenty. Well, thanks for doing what you do, man, and thanks for joining us. You're an inspiration in business and in life and in doing hard things, and appreciate you sharing your story.
Awesome. You should email all my kids and say, listen to your dad more.
And then you email mine too. Okay, you got
All
a
right. I'll
deal.
see you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All right.